Overcome the fear of making mistakes. Supera o medo de cometer erros. Vamos live hoje. Let's do a live today. So today I'm using this different microphone. I hope the sound is good. And today I wanted to talk about the fear that we may have of making mistakes. And I decided to do a live about this because on my VIP group, I asked people there, people who are interested in learning Portuguese and who are learning Portuguese, I asked them, what are your biggest struggles? How is your Portuguese learning journey so far? And one of the answers was fear of mistakes. And this person was more specific. She was talking about fear of making mistakes with tenses. And you know, if you have been learning Portuguese for some time, you know that there are verbs in Portuguese, and the verbs are conjugated in a different way, depends on the tense, if it's past, present, future. Of course, more tenses than just these three. And it can get confused if you think like, okay, I learned the theory and now how am I going to use it? You feel insecure, you don't know how to use the tenses in the right moment, in the different situations. You probably realize that a tense in English, for example, the past simple, the equivalent of past simple in Portuguese is not used in the same situations when you use the past simple in Portuguese. So it's not transparent, it's not straightforward. Oh, this tense in English is this tense in Portuguese, and the way we use the tense in English is always the way we use the tense in Portuguese. Actually, it's not that simple. And when you learn the theory, you learn the conjugations, you learn the tenses, and you learn the explanation and you understand it. Then when you want to use it, you're like, oh, am I saying this right? Oh, let me think. No, this tense. No, it's the other one. And you're scared of making mistakes. And it's not just with tenses. Of course, you may not be very confident about not only your grammar, but also your pronunciation, about a lot of things, right? And you think, okay, how am I going to do this right? Of course that no one wants to make mistakes. We just want to do things right? And it's very related to our culture and our mindset. So if you think that you are scared of making mistakes with tenses or with other things, in Portuguese or in life, why am I afraid? Why am I scared of making mistakes? What's the problem of making mistakes? What is going to happen if you make a mistake? Really think through this, because once you answer these questions, this will give you the answers that you need. And who am I to say any of this? Who am I to give you advice? Olá, I'm Sara. If you don't know me, I'm a Portuguese teacher. I'm specialized in listening comprehension, and as a learner, because the value that I can give you is not as a native speaker who teaches Portuguese, but as a learning as well. Because if I'm here and I'm giving you this message, I'm talking to you, it means that I also learned English. English is not my first language. It's my first foreign language. I'm just a native speaker in European Portuguese. So I've been through this, and I was this kind of person who wanted to be right. I wanted to do things right because I wanted to be able to know English, to speak it, to understand it. I wanted it so much that the idea of making mistakes was scary. And you know, in our culture, at least here in Portugal, but I believe it's not just in Portugal, we were taught that we cannot make mistakes and mistakes are bad. And today I want to introduce to you a different idea, different conception, a different perspective, a different culture. If you want to learn a language and achieve fluency, for example in Portuguese, you need and you must do as many mistakes as you can. I know that this idea may sound a little bit, what? That's exactly the opposite of what I believe, what I was taught. But that's the case. Okay? If you think a little bit about it, doesn't matter what thing that you are learning. You can start learning how to draw. You can start learning Portuguese. You can start learning how to drive. You start learning, for example, in your major, math, engineering, you are learning anything. You are just not going to do it right since the beginning. It's more than normal to make mistakes. And let me tell you, you can have the best teacher, you can have the best mindset, you can have the best resources, the best everything. You are always going to make a certain level of mistakes because you are not perfect. Well, I believe that originally we were made to be perfect. Our Creator made us in a way to be perfect, but meantime, a couple of things happened and we are not perfect anymore. And because we are not perfect anymore, we don't do things perfectly. We make mistakes. Sometimes not as serious mistakes, but other times very serious mistakes, and then we regret them. So because I believe that we were made to be perfect, and this wish, this thing is still in us, on us, we want to do things right every single time, and we want to be perfect, but we are not. And that's a sentence that I like it very much. It's originally from Brazil, and I think that is so true. And the sentence is: aceita que dói menos. Aceita que dói menos. Aceita, accept. Que, because. Dói, it hurts. Menos, less. Accept because it hurts less. When you accept things the way they are, it starts hurting less, and then you can do something about it to improve, to make things change. Change always happens. In the world, this is like a universal law. There's always change going on. You change and you get better or you get worse. Someone is saying, thank you, this is really helpful for confidence building. You're welcome. You're welcome. Very glad that is helping you. So, you are going to make mistakes and you need to accept that. There's nothing that you can do in order not to make mistakes because you are not perfect. You are learning, and when you are learning, you're not going to do things right. And why did I say that you have to make mistakes? You need to make mistakes because this is how you learn it. In order to learn, to remember, you need to make mistakes. When you make mistakes, you are creating neurological webs, like improving your brain. Because if you are just in the theory of things, in the abstract world, you're not going to do it well. It's like riding a bike. You can't read 1,000 books about riding a bike. You can understand all the physics, everything, but if you don't actually ride the bike, you don't know how to ride a bike. So the same way, if you just learn grammar, you just learn the theory, you just listen or read the explanation of the language, you are just, for example, I have my English book. When I was in high school, let me show you. When I was in high school, we used a textbook. This one. If you just dive into the book, you can learn things, right? You can achieve something, but this is not enough. The book is New Arial 12. It says níveis 6 e 8, level 6 and 8, the student's book. This was my textbook when I was learning English. The book can be very good, but it's never enough. Again, you can read and study everything and anything you want about riding a bike. If you don't actually ride a bike, you can't put into practice what you learned, and you don't know how to ride a bicycle. So same thing with language, the same thing with Portuguese. If you just learn and practice the theory, like filling the blanks exercises, just listening or reading to the explanation, just learning grammar, just this, you have the misleading idea, the wrong idea, that you know the language. But can you actually use it? If you don't know the language. You are lying to yourself. You think that you know the language because you understand the difference between the two to-be verbs in Portuguese, ser and estar. The verb ser and the verb estar are two verbs that in English mean to be, but we use them in different situations in Portuguese. So this is something different from English. And you may know, and you may understand, and you may even memorize when and why we use the verb ser, and when and why we use the verb estar. But if in a conversation you can't use the verbs, you can't use what you know in theory, you don't really know it. You don't know it. I know that this, once you realize this, it can be quite frustrating, because in the traditional way of doing things, the traditional teaching system focus just on the theory, on grammar, on writing exercises, filling in the blank exercises. Probably, if you have been learning Portuguese, probably you have been learning this way. Let's say that you did a test. Because your textbook, you studied with your Portuguese textbook, you did the exercises there, and you succeeded. Let's say that in your textbook, in the end of each unit, you have a test. And in the end of the book, you have an exam. Or if you are taking lessons in a Portuguese language school, in the end, you will have an exam or a test. Or even the exam that the Portuguese government requires to apply for the nationality. It's called ESTOU. You take those tests, those exams, and you have a good grade. Let's say, for example, A2. If in real life, when you actually need the language to have a conversation with a native speaker, if you cannot use what you have been learning with them, with the Portuguese, it doesn't matter the grade that you had. Because if you learn something, you pass the test, you think that you know that because you passed the test, but you cannot use it in real life, it means that you don't actually know it. You don't know it. I know that there's this idea of, oh, you passed the test, doesn't matter the test or the exam, for example. Well, there's this exam, it's from the government, it's the Portuguese proficiency exam. It's from the government, so if they say that if I can pass the exam, I know the language, so it means that I know, because if I don't know the language, I cannot pass the Portuguese exam, right? That's the logic. But the reality is, a lot of people that pass exams and tests, they cannot speak. They cannot have a conversation with a native speaker. I'm not talking about passing the basic exam and then trying to have a conversation with someone in the like if it was the advanced level. If you are an A2 student, B1, the advanced, it's too difficult for you, right? I'm talking about using the things that you know in theory. Okay, I know that if you want to speak with a native speaker, the native speaker has everything. There's in real life, there's no division between basic level, intermediate level, or advanced level. This doesn't exist. So when you are with a native speaker, probably you're going to struggle because everything is there. All levels of challenge. I'm talking about of not being able to use the things that you learned. You cannot speak, and when the Portuguese speakers have a conversation with you and talk to you, you don't understand what they're saying, even if you have been learning that for months or years, right? So this is one of the issues. And if you have been here for some time, you know that as a Portuguese teacher, I'm specialized in helping people understand the Portuguese, no matter the speed and no matter how many letters they eat. I actually have a complete course. It's called Understand Portuguese. You can go to my link in my bio and you see the course there is specifically for that. Someone is asking here, I say someone because I don't know how to pronounce your names. How I learning Portuguese? How to learn Portuguese? Well, that's a very broad question, but it's a good question. It's a question that you need to make in order to learn it. Because it's not just starting to, let's read something. Let's just watch a video. You need to know how to learn. And actually, that's something that distinguishes polyglots from other people. Because they know what they are doing. They can buy a textbook, they can hire a teacher, they can do all those things that you are doing, but they know why they are doing the way they are doing. For example, if they have a textbook, they know how to use the textbook. Because once you decide, okay, let's learn Portuguese. Okay, so what should I do? Let's buy a textbook. Or let's enroll in a course, and then you find yourself, for example, not understanding what the Portuguese are saying because they speak very fast. So how are you going to, that you will see that you are going to remember and forget words. So how are you going to memorize? How are you going to understand the grammar? So it's not just going to Portuguese class and listen to the explanation. You need to know how to use your resources. And don't just wait for your teacher to tell you what to do. You need a teacher that guides you and tells you how to learn, not just the teacher that explains things to you. The explanation you can find online. You can even ask ChatGPT, or in Portuguese, ChatGPT, and you'll find the answer. So you need someone, a human being, that, okay, this human being already learned language as a foreign language before and is capable of guiding you on how to learn a language. Oh, you're going to do this and this way, and then after this you're going to do the other thing and this way. Okay. I live Portugal. Yes, if you live in Portugal, you need to learn Portuguese, right? So the main topic here is fear of making mistakes. You are going to make mistakes no matter how prepared you are. That's just part of the process. So accept that making mistakes is part of the process. You're not perfect. You need mistakes to learn, because what happens when people avoid mistakes, it means that they avoid speaking. They avoid writing. They avoid using the language, because that's the only way possible to avoid making mistakes. If you don't even learn Portuguese and you don't use Portuguese, you're not going to make mistakes in Portuguese either, right? I remember a neighbor that I had when I was living in Marquês de Pombal in Lisbon, in the center of Lisbon, and he was from the UK, and I never met someone like him. At that time, I think he was learning Bengali, and he was just incredible. He would hear a new word, he didn't even knew the meaning, but he started to use the word right away. He was completely fearless of making mistakes, and for this reason he was improving. And as a foreigner living in Portugal, he speaks Portuguese. At that time when we met, he already spoke Portuguese because his wife is Portuguese, and they both they speak each other's language. So he was able to learn Portuguese well and fast because he was making these mistakes all the time, learning new things and putting to practice right away. Oh, I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but let's try. Let's do this experiment. And this is what you need to do, and have this Indiana Jones mindset. Do you agree with me if you know Indiana Jones, this adventurous character in movies? He is very good in what he's doing. Finding a lost temple, a lost monument in the jungle. But when he starts his job of finding it, he needs to explore, taking risks. And that's why it's an adventure, because you cannot expect every single thing that is going to happen. There are things that you're not expecting. That's why it's an adventure, because things go sideways. That's why it's an adventure. That's why we need to explore. We don't really know everything what's going to happen. It's like a scientist researching. People are researching right now the cure for different diseases like cancer. They don't know all the answers. They don't know everything. They don't know how to do it because they are researching it. They are looking for the way of doing it. So the same thing with language. You don't know everything about Portuguese, the language, the culture, but you are experimenting, you are exploring. And once you start learning the language, you need to experiment the language. You need to start using the language. If you are scared of making mistakes because you think, oh, what the Portuguese are going to say, what they are going to think. Well, it depends. As you know, there are good people, mean people, good people, nice people, anywhere and everywhere. So, if you meet a Portuguese that is mean to you, is disrespectful, any of these things, don't believe them. If they say to you that you're bad at languages and they're mean to you, you speak bad Portuguese, I don't have patience, this kind of things. Don't be affected by it. You need to be able to deal with people, to deal with different kind of people. If they are nice and respectful to you, the better. If not, you need to deal with them anyway, right? So what people should do is be supportive. You are learning language. Oh, congratulations. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for doing the effort to learning to talk with me in my native language. This would be better. It will be better if the Portuguese are supportive. But if they are not, and they think or say, you are silly, you sound stupid, or even if they overcorrect you and you feel bad because they overcorrect you, either because you're feeling that you are not good or because they make you feel they're not good. Sometimes people make others feel that they're not good enough as a person because their language skills are not good. Or for example, some Portuguese think that Brazilians are less than them just because they speak Portuguese in a different way. The same thing if because a British person thinks that they are just a better person, they are more important just because they are British, and they speak English better because they are British, and and American English is not good English. That American English, it's wrong just because it's American. So there are these kind of people. Don't let them affect you, and don't believe them. Don't believe them. If someone tells you, oh, you're stupid, oh, you're ugly, oh, are you this and that, it's not because they are telling you that you are something bad that you need to believe them. I know that doing that for a lot of people, it's difficult. If someone offends you, you get, oh my God, you feel something, like you are a human being. So you don't feel good when someone criticizes you or when someone is mean to you. So if a Portuguese, regarding your mistakes that you're doing in Portuguese, is disrespectful, doesn't have patience, anything, don't be affected by it. Just keep going. Keep going. Some people will support you, others don't. And I know that you want to just speak Portuguese well. You just want to be fluent. You just want a result, right? And sometimes it seems that people want others just that as well. Yesterday I was talking with a student, and she told me that she has been experienced this. She's doing the effort. She speaks some Portuguese, but because she doesn't speak Portuguese for the Portuguese that she has been meeting, for them it's not enough. Some Portuguese, in her experience, are like this. either you speak perfect Portuguese or it's not good for us. Either you speak perfect Portuguese or I don't want to speak with you at all. You know what I mean? So it's very important to make mistakes, and you're going to make them. It's inevitable. You need to learn with them. If people are mean with you, even if they understand what you're saying, because it's possible to understand someone even if the person is making mistakes. But if the Portuguese are mean with you, even understanding, forget about them. You know that that person is not a good person to be friend with. And you don't want that person in your life because of this. And you know how they are. For friends, you want someone that is supporting you, right? Someone that may correct your mistakes sometimes, but not too much. Like, oh, you see, you make this mistake. You can make mistakes. Oh, this is bad. You think this bad and this bad and this bad. So it's not good just to point the mistakes. It's good to point also the good things. Oh, you're putting the effort very well. Okay, you want a friend that supports you also like this. Okay, and the technical way, let's say, of not making mistakes is to expose yourself to the language. You read a lot. You listen a lot. You watch a lot. You are absorbing the language. You are seeing and reading and watching the real language in real context. And this way you absorb. And the more you absorb the input, then you have something to output. Do you know what they say? We are what we eat. Well, that's true, not just in terms of food, but in anything that we put inside of us, through our ears, through our eyes. We are what we put inside, or what we absorb. So, in order to not make mistakes, for example, speak correctly, okay, you learn the theory, you study, and you apply the SPA method. What is the SPA method? S stands for study, like regular study. You read or listen to the explanation. You study. P stands for practice. Okay, let's do some exercises in order to practice what you just learned. And you do more practice than study. For example, if you study 1 hour, something new, you need 4 hours of practice for that same thing. So you practice. And A, it's apply. And by apply, I just say it's just like using that in your life. You're not applying just to train, just to exercise, just to practice the language. You're just living your life. For example, let's say you need to go to the grocery store because you don't have groceries at home. You go there and you buy it, and you speak with people there, and you speak with them not just because you want to practice Portuguese, but because you are a human being, and being a human being means that you need to speak with other human beings. So you're just using your life, but instead of using other language, you are using Portuguese. Okay, so that's the SPA method. You study, you practice or you train, and then you apply in your life. Just use life, just living your life. Okay, so that's what you need to do. Okay, study, practice, and apply in your life. Let me see if Jackie, thank you. You said I love that analogy. Thank you. What analogy? The spa? Being a spa? Because I think I said couple of analogies. Yeah, which one analogy? So this, okay, you study, you practice, and then you go live your life using what you learn. And you need to know that some kind of mistakes, you are keep on doing them for a long time. I'm talking about those things that are very different from your language, from your native language or other languages that you know. For example, in Portuguese, absolutely everything has a gender. So how do you know? For example, this is garrafa. Garrafa, bottle. Garrafa, it's a girl. Why? It's a girl. In Portuguese, it's a girl. A garrafa. A garrafa. There's no thing that, like, looking at an object, there's no way you know that an object is masculine or feminine unless someone tells you. So if you don't know that, for example, something very specific, I bought recently this sun disk. It's a very specific this. Let's say that you never saw this before, you know what that is, but you never saw anyone talking about this in Portuguese. You never read in Portuguese, you never read about this in Portuguese. You just don't know. Is this masculine or feminine? You just don't know. If you haven't heard it, if you haven't read it, if you haven't watched it, you cannot just guess if this is masculine or feminine. You need to absorb that information. But if you haven't, how are you going to know if it is masculine or feminine? You don't. But let's say you need to talk about this. You need to choose a gender, right? So maybe you're not going to choose the right gender because you just don't know. You are guessing. And in a conversation, if you want to talk about something that you don't know the gender, but you still are going to talk about it, you are just guessing. And if you're guessing, sometimes you guess it wrong, which is just normal. So this is actually masculine. O disco. This is masculine. Other genders, for example, pen. This is feminine. This is a girl. But, for example, my microphone. This is a guy. O microfone. I just show you my book, my English book. It is a guy. It's masculine. I have here a peppermint essential oil. Do you think this is a girl or a guy? Oil. Óleo. This is a guy. This is masculine. What else? I have brinco. This one, brinco. Is this masculine or feminine? Is this a guy or a girl? This is masculine. It's a guy. O brinco. This here, fio. Fio. It's a guy. Right? Or I have, for example, this. Is this a guy or a girl? This is a girl. Bracelet. A bracelet. 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 And this is pulseira. Also feminine. Pulseira. Also a girl. So, in Portuguese, everything has gender. If you haven't learned the gender of a specific object and it doesn't follow the rule, then you just don't know and you'll make the mistake, which is normal. So when you are using something that is in a language that is very different from your native language, probably you are still making that mistake for a long time. That's what happens with English speakers. when they're learning Portuguese. Throughout the different levels, throughout their journey, it's normal to make gender mistakes because objects in English don't have gender. In English we have he, she, and it. Well, in Portuguese we don't have it. Everything is a she or a he. So it's different, and if it's very different, it will get more time for you to use it the right way. Okay? Before we end, let me see if you wrote some questions about this or just comments. Probably I explained it so well that you don't have any comments. So, to wrap this up, making mistakes is part of the process. You are going to make the mistakes. It's normal to make mistakes. If you do mistakes, it means that you are using language, you are practicing, and you are getting better. So make mistakes if you want to get fluent in Portuguese. There are mistakes that will persist because there are some things in Portuguese that are very different from English, like things having gender. This can be very confusing for English speakers. Why pen it's a girl, and why microphone it's a guy? It's masculine. It is, okay? And think about, why are you scared, or why do you fear mistakes? Why is that? Are you scared that people will laugh at you? They will think that you are stupid, silly, dumb? Are they really going to think that? If so, do you really want to be nearby these kind of people who don't support you and they just laugh at you? Or are they laughing just because it's truly funny and they're not judging you? And again, if you make mistakes and people will react in a certain way, be strong. Okay? There are good and bad people, mean people, nice people anywhere in Portugal as well. So don't believe that you are the wrong one. Don't believe that you have the problem or you are the problem because you are making mistakes. No. You are just following the process, the normal process of learning a language, of learning Portuguese. So you need to be strong and really believe this. So any comment, any mean comment won't, what's the word? Shake you. Right? Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to learn how to understand the Portuguese, no matter the speed, you can go to my link in bio, and I have there the complete course that you need to know exactly how the Portuguese eat letters, how they change the sound of the letters, something that you haven't learned anywhere else. Okay? So, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao. Ciao!